Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Indie Beacon Show. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and today I have with me Winter Lawrence, who has a wide collection of books, which we'll get into in a bit. But first, welcome, Winter. We're glad you're here.
Hi, Alan. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, you have, like I said, a wide variety. So let's start with the basics of how did you get into writing?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess like almost with every other author, I started out as an avid reader, and so when I was younger, we grew up in the South Bronx. Not a lot of money, and so the library was my best friend, and so I got to get out a lot of books and kind of adventure out of my little space that we had to stay in into other universes, other worlds. Got to learn all about other cultures and all these fantastic places. And so I've always been a very avid reader. And when I, got a little bit older and I had my daughter, I was home with her. I was very fortunate to be able to stay home with her. But I noticed that when she got into school, I was home a lot more by myself, had a little bit more free time. And so I said, what am I going to do with all this free time? And I was like, well, I'm going to write a book. I love to read books. So I'm going to write a book. And I thought it would be the easiest, simplest thing in the world. And man, was I wrong about that. It was super hard. It's definitely, it's you got to play the long game when you say you want to write a book. But, if you stick to it and finish it, it's definitely a very rewarding process.
Yeah, and you seem to be very much the classic poster child for why reading is so important, because you mentioned all those key things of being able to discover other universes, other worlds, new people, new things, new excitements and stuff. So congratulations on that. We should take a picture of you and use you for that.
Yes,
and I'm sure New York
I have a
public libraries would
library.
love that.
So. Yes, love the library.
So you've written a lot of books. So let's start off with your first one. Real quickly, give us a little tell of what it is.
Oh gosh, so the first one that I got published under my pen name, Winter Lawrence, is book one of the Gamer series. And that book is really it was all about my daughter. And she really is my inspiration for almost everything in my life. And so she is a huge gamer girl. So she grew up when she got into middle school, she was a bit of a tomboy, and, she definitely liked to do the gaming, and she kind of had a little bit of a hard time with it. And so I became interested in it only because she sometimes met a little bit of resistance because she was such a good gamer. And, when people thought, well, you're just a girl, and I thought that was really interesting because I was like, what does it matter that she's a girl or he's a boy or, it's just a game and it's a lot of fun. But because that came up very often, that theme came up very often, I became really intrigued on how how that worked out when it came to gender in gaming. And so I started playing with her. And of course, I really enjoyed it because, gaming's awesome. And one day we were sitting there playing and we were playing Call of Duty. And she goes, wouldn't it be awesome if we were like in the game? And I was like, well, no, I was in the military. So I was like, no, probably not this game. But definitely it would be awesome if we could get like sucked into a game, like a cool game, a safer game. And that was it. That's how the story came about, and we just, it started with Call of Duty. So in Eve 2.0, there's a segment where we're in Call of Duty. I didn't call it Call of Duty for trademark purposes and such. It's Commando's Creed. And so I incorporated that, and that was the first scene. So that's actually in the middle of the book, but that was the first scene I thought of. And then I kind of wrote the entire book and then the series based on that.
Cool. And if I understood correctly, Gamer is now being turned into an app of some sort, or tell me about that.
Yes. Yes, so I just signed with Higgs Technology. So exciting. I'm not quite sure how it works because the app that they currently have is for romance stories. And so I think they're trying to go a different direction with the paranormal fantasy genre. And so basically it's like a choose your own adventure kind of book, which those were like my favorite when I was growing up. And you get to go in there and they take the basis of Eve 2.0 and then they'll make it into like this really cool gaming format with these really cool avatars. You'll just kind of choose. And I'm not sure if you're going to be Gwen yet. I'm not sure if you're going to be Ryan, because my gamer series does switch POVs. But you'll definitely be able to go through the storyline and pick, and you'll determine your fate, I guess, as it goes. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. It's all just in the works right now, so I'll definitely keep everybody posted as information becomes available.
Okay, so since that is happening, and Gamers was the first, but it goes into Eve 2.0 and Eve storyline. Tell us more about the Eve aspect. What is that storyline about?
Which, now, repeat
Eve.
That one more time.
You have 2 Eves, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So the first one is the ultimate gaming experience. And so that introduces us to our main characters. So basically, it's about teenagers. And this part of the story wasn't based on my daughter. Of course, it was just to satisfy the teen romance quota for it. So there was a teen, love triangle. And so Gwen is the protagonist. And she has a boyfriend who she met online. So she's never actually met him. And that actually was kind of based on reality, is that there's so many people who will do that. They meet online, they never meet, but then you're my boyfriend, you're my girlfriend. And it's very interesting to me, the psychology behind that. And so when it came to the main character, Gwen, she's very introverted, she's very shy. And so the idea of having a boyfriend that she didn't really have to interact with, just gaming and doing stuff like that, it really appealed to her. And so she has this boyfriend, but of course there's the jock, the heartthrob at the high school that she goes to, and he's of course her neighbor, and she's of course always had a crush on him. And so, I had to work into the storyline that, she has Pete, the online boyfriend who she's never met, and then she has Ryan, the hot next door neighbor, who is kind of crushing on her at the same time because she's kind of like the geeky girl. And they all get sucked into the simulator together. And that's where Gwen gets to meet, like, quote unquote, meet Pete, and then of course Ryan's there. So it's all about, them competing for her affection. And of course, Ryan is a jock in real life, and, he's very popular in real life, but he's not a gamer. And so, it kind of goes to that real world of the tech guy versus the jock guy, where Pete knows everything that's going on the background. And of course, he's helped, with the simulator, and he understands the simulator. And Ryan, a lot of times, kind of gets, he feels very out of his element, because he's normally the guy who's in control and the guy who's the hero. And in this case, most of the time, Gwen is saving his butt. And it becomes a very interesting, relationship with him and his ego, and him trying to impress her at the same time.
Okay. There's a lot there. And it sounds like a little triangle situation going on, or could develop or something. But I'll let the readers read it and figure that out. So I am going to step away, or we're going to step away and let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back.
Marianne Fairmouth is a career consultant with 30 years experience in the national recruiting world, a multi-award-winning author in multi-genres, and a speaker that gives presentations to help you succeed. Her book, Revolutionary Recruiting, made the top 20 global list of recruiting books. Find her on Amazon, your favorite bookstore, or at fairmouth.com.
Factor 7, the newest thriller by author J.D. May, will keep you turning the pages with mystery, betrayal, lies, and infidelity. Ripped from the headlines, Factor 7 follows 2 prominent doctors who uncover a clandestine plot to spread a bioweapon with a 98% mortality rate. Journey with them as they experience a world of murder, power, intrigue, and corruption, where it becomes deadly clear that exposing the truth is just as dangerous as the weapon they seek to expose.
Hello, I am the author Denise Bryson. My first book is The Things That Cross My Mind, Inspirational Poetry with Life Lessons. And then my audio book is Love's Reality, and it is also inspirational poetry with a jazzy flair. And then my new book is The Sex, the Lies, and the Soul Ties. They're really short stories written from a poetic expression. And then I have my first children book series, the Blinky series, which the first book is called Meet the Coins, and it is both in English and Spanish. And then the new book, From Coins to Bills. I am the author, Denise Bryson.
To embrace your children's imagination, check out Diane Floyd Bame's books for kids. There's The Moonling Adventures, all about the animals in the Serengeti. And then there's Harry the Camel, learning to love yourself just the way you are. Then The Little Girl in the Moon. There's one about friendship, another one about the big ideas, which is an inspirational story, and then Tour Tycho Town, right there in Tycho Crater on the moon. All of Diane Floyd Bame's books are available at B4R Store.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
And welcome back. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois. You're watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, and we appreciate that. I have with me today Winter Lawrence, who has written a wide collection of books. We were talking about Eve and Gamers in the first group, and the fact that Gamers is becoming an app. But you also have a lot of other books that you've written over a period of time and stuff. And I believe one of the newer ones is called The 13th Floor.
Yes, The Message on the 13th Floor. It was originally, that was the working title, The 13th Floor. But then when you go to, you start getting it ready to go out to sell, the publisher was like, we can't do The 13th Floor because that's just, you Google that and that pulls up 8 billion things. So we finagled it a little bit. So The Message on the 13th Floor is a little bit original. There's still a couple other things that pull up with that. But yes, that one just released yesterday, which I'm very excited about.
All right, so that's actually late spring of 2021 for anyone who's watching later. So obviously there's a message involved and something about the 13th floor. So tell us more about it.
Right, so that book was inspired, and it's actually funny, my daughter just called right before I got on here, and she's with one of her best friends, Taj. And so that book started out as just a dinner conversation because my daughter and her one girlfriend, Taj, we love talking about urban legends, and we love going on YouTube and just watching, different kinds of things like the Slenderman and just creepy fun stuff like that. And so one day we were at dinner and they bring up the elevator game. And I had never heard of that. I was like, what? Tell me about this elevator game. And so apparently it's just you go into a building that either is haunted or has some type of haunted history, and you get on the elevator and you have to do it like in a certain pattern. You can't just like go up to the 13th floor. There's, this little clues that you got to do, but eventually it gets you up to hell. That's, or at least that's the way the story was told to me. And that blew me away. I was like, that is so cool. How have I gone like decades not knowing this very cool urban legend? And so I started doing some research on it, and I just fell in love with the whole concept of it. And so I wrote this entire book about I need someone to get on an elevator for a reason to get up to the 13th floor. And so that's how the 13th floor came about, this whole story with Megan. And she's a daughter. She has 2 younger sisters, and she's from a single parent household. And so I did make sure that in that story, I incorporated a lot of things that meant a lot to me. I think there are a lot of underrepresented groups in writing. Definitely not as much now as when I was growing up. But like I said, I was a very avid reader when I was growing up. And I just remember that I never read a book out of all the books I checked out about a Puerto Rican girl in the South Bronx. Like I never found a book that represented me, that I was like, oh, I see myself in this book. I see myself in, this television show. I think there's so many populations who are still very underrepresented. And so I wanted to make sure that if I had the opportunity to create this world around this urban legend, I wanted to make sure that there were girls and boys, and just young adults who found books that they could relate to. And so for the 13th floor, I have Megan, who is 17, and she has two younger sisters. And she's from a single parent household, and her mother has alcohol and drug problems. And so, Megan has basically been the mother. She's basically raised her sisters. And that happens a lot in urban environments, in urban families, where not necessarily there's a drug or alcohol problem, but the parents are not there. They're not present because they're working 2 or 3 jobs, just to keep a roof over your head. And so you have that a lot in these families where the older sibling is basically the parental figure. And so in this case for Megan, she also is the parental figure for her mother, because her mother has these problems, and her mother is a bit of just like, like a flower child, loose, like da 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 da. And so when she goes missing, when her mother goes missing, nobody is really surprised. Like, they live in this little town called Middletown, which is a city I lived in upstate New York. And everybody's like, oh, it's just Maggie. She's missing again, and at first Megan is just very upset. And I really wanted to hone in on that resentment, and that anger that the older siblings can feel when they're like, again, Mom, I have to do your job again, and I don't get to be the kid. And so at first Megan is just as upset and annoyed as everybody, but then she starts getting these messages that eventually lead her to a haunted hotel in Manhattan. And so she has to do the elevator game to see if she can find her mom.
Very interesting. A lot going on there. And I was one of those latchkey kids who became a parent because my sibling was 9 years younger, single mother, working hard. So I can fully understand all of that and stuff. But you have so many more other books. So tell us some more about the other ones, so that your readers can see the wide variety that you have.
Yes. So my first 2 books I actually released under my name. That was those guys, and those were young adult science fiction, more science fiction fantasy than anything. And I had a lot of fun with those, and I learned a lot with those guys. And so I definitely would like to at some point do a second edition of those guys. I think under winter. I think that would be really, really cool. And then I do have another book that I just signed for, that should be coming out early next year. So spring, winter, I guess winter 2022. And that one is going to be my first venture into adulthood. It's right now, I think we're labeling it as an occult romantic thriller. It's just a very cheesy, very campy book about a Hollywood heartthrob. And of course, this will be kind of funny to other writers, but it's basically a writer who her first book skyrockets to success. And, she gets to go out to Hollywood while they're filming the movie. And her and this Hollywood heartthrob they end up becoming friends in a very weird way. But he has a stalker, and she's unhinged. She's not well. And so as the Hollywood heartthrob and the author become friends, the stalker is not happy about that. And so it's very soap opera-y. It kind of has like a Scream Queen kind of feel to it, mixed with like Fatal Attraction.
What is the working title of that one?
That one right now, the working title is Nightmarish Dreams.
Okay, so I'm curious how much of this is a fantasy aspect of you becoming that successful author who gets to go to Hollywood.
I think that's every author's dream, honestly. I based who I based it off of was Stephanie Meyers, because I am just a huge fan. You can't see the other side of my bookshelf, but it's completely dedicated to her. And so, you know, she had that amazing experience where she wrote her book and, you know, it just like skyrocketed to success. And then she had the movie, and the first one was kind of like an indie kind of, nobody knew where this was going. And then it really like blew up. And, you know, she got to do the cameos, and it sounds like everybody had a good time hanging out with her and her helping out. And so I think that would be the dream for many authors. I definitely would not mind if that, if that happened to me. I definitely wouldn't want to deal with Penelope, though, my satanic stalker, because she's she's unhinged. I have a background in psychology, and so I wanted to use that, and I put a lot of that into Penelope, and so it should be fun. It's just a fun read.
Good. Well, we're at that point again. We need to take a break for our sponsors, but we'll be right back.
Publishing marketing package for authors. $1,500 value, save 40% now. Includes a 6-piece marketing kit of 250 bookmarks, 250 business cards, 250 postcards, 1 table banner, 1 table runner, and 50 download cards, plus book cover design, ebook creation, PDF setups, upload to Ingram Spark, scroll placement, video commercial, and interview on IBS. Plus much more. Email bourgeoismedia@look.com for details, or bourgeoismedia.com.
Hi, I'm Mel Greenberg, author of Running with Our Eyes Closed, book 1 in the Empty Nested series. To the world, Samantha has the perfect life. 3 wonderful children, a loving husband, so she thought, and a life split between Dallas and Italy. When her youngest leaves for college, it all comes crashing down, forcing Samantha to re-examine everything. Over 7 days in one of the most romantic countries in the world, Samantha faces the past she thought she'd overcome and begins to redefine her role as a woman, a wife, and a mother.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? Well, during COVID, almost all of us have been doing just that. I'm Charlotte Canyon, award-winning author, actress, and speaker. And my book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, shows you how you can revive, thrive, and survive with 4 golden rules. You have to love one another. You have to respect one another. You have to have patience with one another. And most of all, you've got to forgive one another. I'm Charlotte Canyon, and I approve this message.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
And welcome back. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois. You are either watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show. We greatly appreciate you doing that. And I've been talking with Winter Lawrence, who's written a wide range of books. She has a new one coming out. She has a new app coming out. So she has a lot of good things going on. So the first question for you in this last segment is, how can people find you?
So I am not, oddly enough, not a very computer savvy, social media savvy person. So the best way to reach me, I guess, would be on Facebook, like, you know, and just reach out there. I do have everything else. And you can find all of that stuff on my website. So if you go to www.winterlawrence.com, I have the links to get you to my Twitter and my Instagram. I have a Pinterest page. And, you know, you can definitely follow me on everything. You can sign up for my newsletter. It's been a crazy year, I think, for everybody. And so you'll see that there's a couple of skipped months in there because, you know, life just got a little crazy for a little while. But I'm normally pretty diligent about sending out my monthly newsletters. And every month I will announce an Amazon gift card just as a reward for like my faithful, loyal subscribers. So, you know, you have your subscriber list, and, you know, I just like to thank people for hanging out and listening. So definitely sign up for the newsletter and follow me at all the other places. If you want to get in touch with me, though, Facebook would be your best bet for sure.
So on your website, I assume you have your locations as to where you're going to be doing book signings as things get back into normal mode.
Yes. And so I definitely used to have a spot on there. I took it off a couple months ago because I don't think anybody had that on there. But I know I will be in Granbury in July, which is very exciting. And then as opportunities become available, as the world goes back to normal, I definitely post where everybody can come out and meet me.
Great.
And that's my cat.
Just so people know, Granbury Friday night is a reception for the Authors Marketing event, but it's also a book festival where all the authors will be presenting their books, and Winter will be doing that as well. And then Saturday, Sundays are Authors Marketing event, and we hope people join us for that. The question I ask all of our guests, the authors and stuff, is what words of advice do you have for someone who's interested in becoming a writer?
Keep writing. That is just the best advice I can give to any aspiring author. Writing can be such an amazingly rewarding career and profession, but it takes a lot of work. So when I first had that epiphany, when my daughter started middle school, and I was like, I'm gonna write a book. I love books. I'm gonna write a book. It definitely was not as easy as I thought it would be. So you definitely have to just stick to it. Don't get discouraged. Make sure that you receive criticism gracefully, and that you just keep going with emotions, and eventually, good things will happen. So just keep the faith.
So speaking of good things and keeping at it, out of all the books you have, you've won at least one award. Have you won other awards?
I did. I won for the Gamer Series. So one year, the year that the Ultimate Gaming Experience came out, I did win first place in the literature category. And that was amazing and spectacular. And then this year, I also, for book 2, Night Terrors, I won the first place for the RPG category, which was amazing because, it's definitely the perfect genre for that book. So I was very happy with that. I have all my awards and stuff hanging right ahead of me there that I look at every morning.
So persistence does pay off.
Yes, definitely.
Well, great. Well, we are at the end of the show. I want to thank you very much for being with us. We wish you the best of luck. We're looking forward to the app as well as your other books that you'll be coming out with next year. Plus, I'm sure you're going to have something new and exciting for us as we continue down the road. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, produced by B Alan Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2021. Voiceover by B Alan Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please email us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show, please complete the form found on our website at indiebeacon.com. You may also watch previous year's shows on the website. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Indie Beacon